Hey there, you're listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Here's your host, RJ Carbone.
And a high drive into left center field. Stanley's going to watch another one fly. Are you kidding me? DiVincenzo a three. Bang! Bang! Knicks take a
take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
At the wall. See ya! See ya! See ya! Mr. Nova.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down and the game is tied.
He shook up the world again.
I did it again. But God did it, man. I really just had
To Brunson running away. Oh my! He has been the best player to put on that uniform.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
That was fun. That was a good time, man. That was one of my favorite wins in a while. I mean, it was a strong win against a tough West Coast opponent. You know, I mean, Memphis is third seed, and the Knicks have beat them twice now. You know, they beat them. I mean, it was a competitive, close game. The Knicks were behind for the most part. And then, you know, they willed their way to the win in the end. And I think for the lovers of the 2024 Knicks team from last year, this was your win, right? It was the win that brought you back to those moments from last year. It was a tough and resilient win that a lot of us have been waiting for. You know, the defense was active and they showed a lot of fight. And again, Memphis they're not Boston, Cleveland, they're not OKC in the West, but they're probably not too far off. Like they're tier 2, maybe tier 3. They're where the Knicks are, right? They're in that spot. They're a legit Western Conference playoff contender. You know, they can win a couple of rounds probably, and the Knicks beat them. They blew them out at Madison Square Garden, and then they beat them in a close battle on the road last night, which is important, man. So, again, Memphis was ahead for the majority of this game, but the fourth quarter comes, and the Knicks make a big push. You know, you get some nice champagne minutes early. And, of course, Anunoby and McBride having some big moments early in the fourth quarter. Jalen Brunson, is there anything left to say? He does this seemingly every night where he clutches up with massive, I was going to say shots, but massive plays in this game in the final half of the fourth quarter once again, right? You got the basket with 6 minutes and change remaining. He gets to his spot, knocks down a floater to pull the Knicks within 2. With 2 minutes left in the game, he knocks down a floater over Zach Edey to tie it. And then with 24 seconds left, he knocks down the big three-pointer to give the Knicks the lead. And then with 5 seconds left, after Ja Morant gets the N1 to give Memphis the lead, with 5 seconds left was the big one, right? This was the play of the game. And for Jalen Brunson to get the paint touch and to draw the weak side help after getting 1 foot into the paint, that was massive. That was the most impressive part, right? So it starts off where Brunson pretends to call Hart into the action to screen. This is to get Ja Morant to bite on Brunson's left. And the second he does, Brunson attacks right, drives the open space, dribbles around the double that comes, and he almost falls down and then makes an incredible skip pass to OG Anunoby on the weak side wing. OG knocks it down, and the Knicks take the lead. So OG clutches up. Brunson makes an incredible pass to cap off a crazy night. And Ja on the other end, Ja Morant misses the game winner. And we will talk about that. Mikal Bridges with the big block, but of course, Mitchell Robinson, which is going to get overshadowed, what he did to Bucks. We'll talk about that. And so the Knicks win. The Knicks win 114-113. It was a good, solid, fun win. And this was the team that I had a feeling the Knicks would win this game just because they match up well with Memphis. They really do. Given the Knicks are a really bad half-court defense and they're maybe average transition-wise, they match up well with Memphis because Memphis plays a full-court style of basketball. They don't run a ton of pick and roll. They're not in the half-court a lot, and so you're not going to have those possessions where they seek out Towns and they seek out Jalen. So I just had a feeling the Knicks would take this win. No, there are a lot of things to discuss in this one. No major takeaways, except for one thing I will say. There is one thing that I think people should start paying attention to now. And it's that the Knicks continue to win these types of games. And these are very important games where they win these crunch time games where they need to execute and play perfect down the stretch. They continue to win these games. And this was a game where the Knicks were getting murdered on the glass, getting killed at the basket, and at times struggling to keep up with the tempo. But they figured it out with defense and three-point volume, right? And I think it's so important for a team that's got hopes to make a deep postseason run to be able to have that will and to consistently win these types of games. That's good for playoff momentum. That's always going to be good for something like that. The Knicks are now 15-7. That's the second best win percentage in the league in games that feature clutch moments. But even more important than the execution is the experience they're getting in these games right now, right? The fact that they've played 22 such games in the clutch is very significant, right? That's 37% of their games. So that's more than a third. That's more than a third of their games. That's almost 2 out of every 5, in fact, games where they are playing clutch time scenarios in the final 5 minutes. So if you want something to hold on to and something to stay optimistic about, you can hold on to this. You can grasp this straw, right? You can look at the fact that the Knicks and Jalen Brunson are incredibly experienced in this type of atmosphere. And again, I can't stress enough how super important that is to make a playoff run. Also, to win another game where neither of your two stars were very sharp, that's a good thing too, right? I mean, Towns was bad all around. Brunson, the process was okay for the most part. Like I like the fact that he was targeting the Ja Morant switch all night, but he just didn't have his touch until the end, obviously. So it was good to see that. But a good win, man. A good win all around. So we're going to discuss it. We're going to get into a couple of things here. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Be sure to subscribe, follow, give us a 5-star rating. We're going to talk about this win. Episode 813. We'll be right back. BD4 is available on social media for those who want to follow. You can find BD4 on Instagram at BD4Pod. You can find us on X at BD4Pod. And you can find us on Facebook by simply searching BD4. Hey guys, just a quick reminder, this podcast is also available in video format on YouTube. So be sure to go over to the YouTube channel, BD4, subscribe, like the videos, comment and tell me how much I suck or maybe how much you like the video. We'd very much appreciate it. Okay, welcome back to the show, episode 813 of the podcast. The Knicks win in Memphis last night, 114 to 113. Now, before we get into some of the positives, in the moment, there were a couple of things, not a lot. There were a couple of odd substitutions from Tibbs, which, that's been the whole thing, right? Lately, we've been talking about how lineup decisions could be the eventual downfall for Tom Thibodeau in a postseason series. And unironically, it was the same player who continues to get the short end of the stick. Now, what started with me, at least, I noticed in the third quarter when Hart, who probably shouldn't have even been out there after the fourth foul, Hart picks up his fifth foul in the third, and Tibbs goes to Shamet over McBride. That bothered me. They're both smaller guards, so you can't use that. Shamet's not an NBA player. I will continue to say that. He doesn't belong in a rotation, at least on a contender. He just doesn't provide much value. He's not big enough to be considered a wing, and on the other end, he can't shoot the basketball well for a guy who's supposed to be a mediocre shooter. He can't do that very well. And, the Knicks just, again, I'm not blaming, like, Shamet's in their rotation because they lack depth and they desperately need another wing in the summer, right? It's Shamet being in this rotation makes it difficult to see certain lineups, though, because Tibbs is never willing to play three guards. He will not do it. It's always two guards with at least one of their wings out there, and sometimes the second guard is going to be Shamet. So, it's tough. We want these 5-out lineups, and we got in the third quarter, you got a couple of minutes where they ran 5-out spacing. It was Brunson, McBride, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns. But it wasn't leveraged properly, and they didn't really go to it long, which it's embarrassing that we see that lineup so little. It's got size, with your two wings plus Cat, and you got shooting 1 to 5. I know he likes Hart out there for the exercise. We need to start seeing this 5-out lineup more. I'm not going to get into this again because this has been like something we've ranted about for the last 5 episodes in a row. But what really bothered me was in the fourth quarter with 4.5 minutes left and the game tied. Deuce McBride playing extremely well. Anunoby comes in, he subs for McBride. I didn't understand it. McBride was doing an excellent job at the point of attack. He was playing the pass lanes really well. And on the offensive side of the ball, you needed his gravity as a spacer. But Tibbs, I guess, he liked the Anunoby matchup on Jackson. And he wanted Josh Hart out there for rebounding. And Hart did take a terrible mid-range look at the end there, but I guess at the end of the day, the execution was there, and Tibbs got what he wanted. Anunoby knocks down the game winner, so I can't complain too much. But again, it's more about the decision. It was about the process. Getting to the execution was interesting. But that's the only real qualm I have. It was, other than that, the vibes were great, man. And it was, geez, we haven't even mentioned Mitchell Robinson, man. It was so nice to see Mitch return. I almost forgot he was returning until I found out on Twitter, but it was nice to see him return. And first of all, it was, how ironic is it? The irony is amazing that Mitch returns, I'm pretty sure, on the same exact day that Joel Embiid is announced to be out for the season. Just perfect irony there. But he looked good, man. Obviously he's got to get back into game shape. The conditioning and the reaction timing wasn't exactly sharp last night. He did miss some rotations in the first quarter, a couple of baskets at the hoop, a foul. But overall, I did think he looked good on both ends. He did some offensive stuff that I liked. You don't see Mitch do a lot of things offensively, but there were a couple of things, right? There was the DHO keep where he puts the ball on the floor for a driving dunk. There was the left-handed finish deep on the post, and then later in the game he finishes through traffic off of a dump down from Anunoby. So he did some offensive stuff that you don't see from Mitch often. But of course, you go to the other end of the floor, and his impact was most definitely felt. Finishes the game as a plus 11 across 12 minutes. Some of that was Towns not playing well, but some of that was actually Mitch making really good impact. I thought he made life easier for other Knick defenders, which is going to be key, right? There was a possession where he made life easier for Mikal Bridges at the point of attack, which is going to be something I'm going to be looking at going forward, right? The end of the third quarter there, when Mikal gets that block, Mitch is in drop. And the fact that Mitch in drop coverage there was able to contain Ja Morant on the drive and kind of force him to snake the pick and roll long enough until Bridges recovers was huge, because once Bridges finally recovered there, he made a nice rear contest to get a block. And that was key, because Mitch kind of stalling Ja Morant there is what you're going to continue to see with him in drop coverage as that safety valve, right? As that insurance on the back line. That's not to pick on Cat, but that's the complete opposite of Karl Towns. And it makes, when Towns is in pick and roll with Mikal, often it'll make Bridges look bad sometimes, because that didn't make sense. Often, sometimes. A lot of the time it will make Bridges look bad because they're going to use that pace and attack Towns out of it. And then you get the end of the fourth quarter where Ja misses the potential game winner at the basket. Of course, everyone's going to talk about Bridges' block, as they should, but after that, Mitch getting in the way of Aldama and boxing him off of that miss prevented the putback there. If Mitch isn't there, the Grizzlies most likely win this game, because that was an easy putback for him. But Mitch boxes him out and gets in the way, prevents Aldama from getting a clean look off the miss, and the Knicks win. So it's going to be that defense in the pick and roll that I continue to keep an eye on. It's night and day when you watch Mitch defend a ball screen and drop coverage, and then you watch Towns defend a ball screen and drop coverage. It's night and day. I mean, I know Cat was dealing with the knee injury last night, but all season we've seen it, right? He's atrociously slow in drop. He's backpedaling on every single drop, no matter what. He's just going to default to a backpedal. He's got a poor stance, these hands down contests. And then you look at somebody like Mitch, he stays balanced. He's in a low stance. He uses his hands. So that's what you want to see. Now, he only, again, played 12 minutes last night, but they were important minutes to spare Towns as he was dealing with this knee injury. And, the rotation is going to be an interesting topic going forward, right? You didn't see it last night. You didn't see the double big lineup. No Mitch and Towns together. Listen, it's interesting because there were certainly opportunities where Tibbs could have went that way. And I do expect it eventually. But I don't think it's going to be long stints at all. I would hope that Mitch doesn't start eventually. That's not something I would want. But listen, if Mitch eventually works himself up to 20, 25 minutes per game for this team, in certain games, will we see 5 to 10 minutes with them two sharing the floor? Maybe that's even too much, but that's okay. That's fine, right? It's obviously it's not my favorite idea. I prefer being 5 out as much as possible. Mitch and Hart alone, them two sharing the floor is bad offense. It allows the defense to do so many things. But Mitch plus Hart is still greater than, when you're running double bigs with Precious, right? Because Hart can do things offensively. But the whole point here is to keep the big on Towns as much as possible, because the Knicks are so bad at countering these specific teams or these specific schemes against these certain teams that you want to see them have Towns out there with the big on him. So playing him with Mitch is not going to give you that scheme. But you do like the fact that Mitch out there as a screener, as an off screener, is going to help the Knicks in terms of 3-point volume, right? That's been a conversation basically all year long. The Knicks not getting off enough 3-point looks. Mitch's screening is going to help provide looks for Towns on the 3-point line, because with him on the floor, the driving lanes are going to be clogged as shit, right? The defense is going to be able to bring paint help. If Mitch is on the dunk spot, you're not going to have that lane. So it's going to be important to use Mitchell Robinson as a screener to open up the 3-point line. And if Mitch is on the dunk spot, the big's not going to be up. It's just there are ways you can figure out to get more 3-point looks off with Mitch on the floor. Just like how Minnesota used Gobert with Towns at the 4, Gobert at the 5. They were able to get Gobert screening for him. So that's something I'm going to be looking forward to. But overall, man, I thought Mitchell Robinson was really effective last night. It was a good first game back for him. Again, a couple of mistakes, but that's expected. But speaking of, cross-matching, and as that's been a topic all year, an issue all year, where they defenses put the wing to Towns and the big to Hart. You saw that last night, and I thought the Knicks actually exploited it pretty well. Now there were a couple of moments where Morant was on Cat, and the Knicks didn't really exploit that as much as you wanted. Again, Cat was having a bad night anyway, but with Zach Edey and Aldama on Josh Hart a lot of this game, the Knicks, I thought, did a solid job of taking advantage of it. Did a nice job using the open space and using Josh to screen, which is very important, right? But early in the first quarter, there were a couple of possessions there where the Knicks were able to use the space to exploit that cross match. The first basket of the game, Josh Hart gets an open look for 3. He takes it, right? Edey is in drop. He goes under the screen. Josh Hart takes the open look. That's something that he's going to have to keep doing. He's not done that over the last couple of weeks. He needs to get back to taking those open looks. Late in the fourth quarter, he missed this shot, but the fact that he took it was good. Aldama doubles the Brunson pick and roll. Brunson kicks the Hart, one pass over. Hart takes the open look. You need to keep seeing him do that. That's going to help. And then late in the first quarter, again, he picks up an assist to Deuce McBride on the corner. He stampedes the catch, drives the open space with Aldama helping off of him, and he kicks to Deuce for a 3. So that's what we're going to need to see. And then continuing to spam him into the action, call Josh Hart into action, use him to screen. Early in the first quarter, the Knicks are down 13-5. You have Zach Edey on Hart. Hart comes up to screen, pick and roll for Bridges with Edey and drop. The Knicks get a look out of it. Early third quarter, a couple of times using Josh Hart up top, not exactly as a screener, but as an outlet right next to Brunson up top. This got Zach Edey up at the top of the key, to remove his help off of the Ja Morant hedge. So that opened up a couple of looks off the short roll for the Knicks, right? And that's going to be key. The key here was initiating the action up top to get Zach Edey out of help. So That's important. And then, of course, in the final moments of the game, you got the one with 2 minutes left. He screens for Jalen Brunson to get to his spot with Edey in drop coverage. And then late in the fourth quarter, when Brunson knocked down that clutch three-pointer, I thought Hart, you got to credit him. He did a very nice job of flipping the screen. And if you watch closely, he hand signals to Brunson with his right. He makes a signal with his right. He says, I'm gonna flip it. And that helps get Desmond Bane behind. And also it helps get Edey on the wrong side of the action for Brunson to have the space to knock down the three with Bane not recovered and Edey in drop coverage. So that was a big possession, I thought. They used Hart very well, effectively last night. There was still some moments you want to see more of it. Again, going forward, you need Hart to take these open looks. He only took 2 3-point attempts last night, 0 after the first quarter. So, he did pass up that open three to take a bad mid-range look late in the fourth quarter there. So that's going to continue to be key, right? But overall, I thought they exploited that coverage pretty well. We're going to head to break. And when we get back from break, we have a couple of other things to talk about from this game. Stay with us here on episode 813. Be right back. Don't have time to sit down and watch a video? You can listen to BD4 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also watch the video format on Spotify too. Yeah, I thought in terms of the Knicks wings, Hart, as we just discussed, was good. 12 points at the end of the day, 6 assists, a steal, a block. But I thought Bridges and Anunoby were really good. Bridges did a nice job containing Ja Morant. Ja was good, 25 points, but he took 22 shots to get there. There were a couple of bad possessions from Mikal, but there were a couple of good ones. Obviously, the 2 stops at the basket at the end of the third and fourth quarter there. And offensively, he got a lot more reps on the ball than usual, right? Unlike when he dropped 28 points against the Sixers the other night. Most of that was off the ball, wide pins, just coming off screens. In this game, he was on the ball a lot, right? In the middle of the first quarter, the Knicks ran pistol keep between Bridges and Brunson and Mitch for Bridges to get to his spot. They ran some pick and roll between Bridges and Josh Hart. I thought that was good to expose Zach Edey in drop coverage with Bridges on the perimeter. So I thought Bridges looked good on both ends. He scored 15 points, 7 of 9 from 2-point range. Anunoby was very solid. Good bounce back performance from him. He was, in fact, the best Knick among the first unit last night, which is why OG Anunoby is getting my game ball. OG last night, 19 points, knocked down 4 3-pointers, 1 steal, 2 blocks. That was across 38 minutes. He now has 9 game balls on the year. The offense was nice to see. Obviously, big-time game winner at the end there. Post-game interview was even funnier than... it's always funny with him. Monica McNutt, I think she does a good job of bringing out the personality in a lot of these guys. Her and Kenny are actually a pretty good duo, too. But definitely check out that post-game interview on the court there with OG. It was pretty funny if you haven't seen it. But offensively, he was there. And defensively, again, he locked up Jackson really well. Only 18 points on 16 shots. And that's a tough assignment. Jalen Jackson Jr. is no joke. You want to talk about a prototypical big wing player? It's this guy who's 6'10", 6'11", with a wingspan of probably over 7 feet. The kid is a tough cover. And OG was doing a nice job. Tough contests, staying with him, and really just held him in check all night. So he gets his 9th game ball of the season for his performance last night. Comes through big time in that fourth quarter from the 12-minute mark to the end. He had some big moments, so good for OG. Going to the second unit, I'm going to give my game ball to Deuce McBride, who scored 17 points, shot 7 for 11, was 3 for 5 from 3, 2 steals. He was a +9 across 28 minutes. That's now 24 game balls for Deuce, 23 as a second unit player, and 1 game ball as a starter the other night. Continues to be solid for this team. He was knocking down timely baskets all night. You know, he kept the Knicks in it early when Brunson and Towns were both off right in the first quarter. Knocks down a corner when they were on the verge of going down double figures already. Second quarter, he had a couple of baskets. Then you get to the second half, he has the big right-handed slam at the end of the third to give the Knicks momentum back. And then a couple of big baskets in the fourth quarter. He knocks down an early three-pointer with the Knicks down 7. So another momentum-shifting basket. And then late in the period, knocks down what was initially a three-pointer, changed to a two-pointer, but it still ties the game. So we mentioned the defense. That was sharp. But all in all, Deuce McBride, probably the best player on the floor last night for the Knicks. And the Knicks probably lose this game if he was not exactly what he was last night. So credit to him. He gets his 24th game ball of the year. We'll be right back. Stay with us. If you feel like supporting the podcast, you can Venmo at Robert-Carbone-JR-28. We really appreciate your support. Do you enjoy Yankees baseball but are tired of hearing me yap? I have a suggestion for you. Go check out Yankee Crazy Podcast. Greg Gill is a Yankees podcaster on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and he's now selling merch. Go to yankeecrazy.myshopify.com. Stay connected with us. Visit BD4blog.com to explore our blog, tune in to our latest podcasts, and follow us on social media. Thank you for being a part of this community. Okay, welcome back to the show. Episode 813. That's about it regarding this game. Up next for the Knicks, tomorrow night, it's a 6 p.m. game in Miami. So they'll play the Heat, who are no longer relevant, which is always nice. So Sunday at the Heat, and then you continue to play some of these West Coast teams after that. Tuesday, you've got Golden State. Thursday, you're in Los Angeles to play the Lakers, and that's the first of a back-to-back where you obviously play the Clippers after that on Friday. So that's their back-to-back. Then they go to, so they got a little West Coast trip coming up. So it's home versus Golden State, but then it's at Lakers, Clippers, Kings, Portland, Golden State, and then they're back home towards the middle of the month. But yeah, they got a West Coast trip coming up, but first they've got to take on the Heat. And that's tomorrow at 6 p.m. So that's that. With that said, let's wrap this up with our trivia question. All right. Welcome back to the show. Episode 813 of the podcast. And let's get to our trivia here. Because speaking of game winners, we have one regarding a game winner. In 2012, the Knicks beat the Grizzlies in triple overtime. Who hit the game-winning shot? I actually remember this. In 2012, the Knicks beat the Grizzlies in triple overtime. Who hit the game-winning shot? So that's our trivia question for this one. One final time. In 2012, the Knicks beat the Grizzlies in triple overtime. Who hit the game-winning shot? Folks, I appreciate you all as always. We're going to wrap this one up here. See you soon. Well, if you made it this far, that means you listened to or watched the entire episode. thank you. Just remember to follow, subscribe, download, rate and review, and all that fun stuff to help out the podcast. And I will see you in the next episode of BD4.